Tribes. We're talking about tribes. Turns out there's some common features that appear within groups that get together over shared ideas. Groups that sort of form tribes over their beliefs, values, and their goals. And these are described by Patrick Hanlon in his book, Primal Branding. And they include the creation story, a creed, icons, rituals, pagans, sacred words, and having a leader. So the first feature, creation story, this is something that exists at the highest levels, like forming a country. You know, the United States has a story of how we gained independence from Britain. And people can have their own creation stories too. For example, Oprah Winfrey often talks about how she grew up in poverty. And Gary Vaynerchuk frequently tells how he sold wine in his father's brick and mortar wine store before starting his own social media company. And then Starbucks has a story for how they started off as a humble coffee shop in Seattle, Washington. After creation stories, there's creeds. So creeds can be like the mission statement of a company, or they could, again, be really high level, like the mission statement of a country, like the Declaration of Independence or the Bill of Rights for the United States. Slogans like just do it or think different are also company creeds for Nike and for Apple. And the thing about the company creeds is that they shouldn't just be about creating the shiniest, most slick, best product. They should be about what the company fundamentally cares about. They should reflect the vision of that company. After creeds, there's icons. We're already aware of many of the icons that we see on billboards and storefronts, like the McDonald's arches and the mermaid logo. But people themselves can also be icons. So you've got Martin Luther King Jr. as an icon for civil rights movement. Mark Zuckerberg is an icon for Facebook. And even fictional characters can be icons like Tony the Tiger for Frosted Flakes. And the large sunglasses that Roy Orbison wears are an icon of his. And the next feature is rituals. So we have yearly rituals like watching the Super Bowl and celebrating Thanksgiving, and these rituals all help to bind communities together. Other rituals help to mark the passage of time, like the New Year's Eve celebration. And then we have personal rituals like weddings and funerals that reflect really important things, and then sort of more mundane rituals like checking your email before you go to bed. And the rituals help bring people together. So if you want to influence people, it's important to understand and follow the rituals that they participate in. So a lot of companies will post out, happy 4th of July on 4th of July to their followers. And some even really savvy companies will check the popularity of the searches for 4th of July as it approaches and make sure to send out their posts in time with that popularity. So the next tribal feature is pagans or non-believers. These are people who have the opposite beliefs that you have. And it can be really beneficial and helpful to isolate and point out these people because it helps solidify your own position as being the opposite of that group. We know that politicians frequently do this when they portray their opponent as a political opposite. And many companies do this as well. So 7-Up declares itself the Uncola. Chick-fil-A uses cows to encourage us to eat more chicken. But one thing to consider when you're highlighting your pagans or your non-believers is that if you criticize a group, sometimes that criticism can reinforce the beliefs of the group that you criticize. And this is called the boomerang effect, and I'll put up a link to that above and below. It's probably going to pop up any minute now. There it is. The next feature is tribal branding or sacred words. So these are dialects or phrases that develop among communities when they talk to each other. And it sort of happens naturally. And it sort of is a marker for members of the group. And sometimes these sacred words can be so engulfing of a community that they're basically their own language. For example, tribes or populations that develop their own language, if they lose that language when another group comes in, they often lose their identity. So sacred words can also consist of emojis. They can consist of abbreviations like TTYL for talk to you later or LOL for laughing out loud within online communities. And really, the members who are using those words have a deeper understanding of what they mean and when it's appropriate to use them. And understanding that helps shape them and bring them together and understand that they're sort of connected at that level. So if you want to influence these groups, it's important to understand the sacred words that they use. It's important to understand how the audience communicates about your product, how they communicate about their beliefs and the things that they care about. And then it's also important to follow changes in the dialect of that culture because it's constantly changing, and understanding that will help you stay relevant within that group. So in this video, we talked about all the features that appear when people bind together, sort of features of tribes. In the next video, we're going to go into that a little bit in more detail, just talk about some specifics of that and how you can further help people bond together within their tribes. So thanks for checking it out, and let us know in the comments what you think, if you know of any other examples of sacred words and pagans and rituals that your favorite companies or your favorite hobbyists or groups are using.